The mind of God. God is supposed to be omnipotent and omniscient. First, omnipotence. If something is omnipotent, then it can create something more powerful than itself. But since it is omnipotent, it can then control every aspect of this thing that is more powerful than itself, but likewise the new omnipotent thing can control every aspect of the old omnipotent thing because they're both omnipotent. But wait a minute, two things cannot be omnipotent. Thus, omnipotence implies the ability to create something omnipotent and the ability to control that new omnipotent thing. But by being able to control that new omnipotent thing, it shows that the old omnipotent thing was not really omnipotent. It lacked the ability to create something omnipotent. So easy peasy, there is nothing omnipotent by definition. Now on to omniscience. If we assume that consciousness is the brain modeling itself, then something omniscient would not be conscious. Also, to be shint, or to be knowing of anything at all, that involves calculation. And it takes more than an atom to calculate an atom. I know there have been great advances in computing, but this is a limit that cannot be breached except for, we could say maybe except for quantumness, which is a lot like saying except for magic. Therefore, to calculate the universe, God would have to be bigger than the universe and exist outside of the universe if it was composed of particles in the same way our universe is composed of particles. I am not saying our universe is composed of true particles. I don't even know what the true atom is, or even if space and time are infinitely divisible, or what space and time are. But if God exists outside of the universe, but is composed of the same stuff as we see in the universe, then God cannot be omniscient. It could be able to direct process the universe without having to model it. But God could not direct process itself. Thus, God cannot be omniscient. Take any material, wave, string, space, time, or whatever weirdness out there exists itself in whatever it exists in. Maybe it doesn't take many space and time, and it is just disembodied information. Whatever can be thought of or can be. That stuff cannot calculate itself unless you equate calculating with being. For example, a rock calculates itself by being itself, and the universe calculates itself by being itself. And so the universe is God, right? This is obviously silly. Like I could say, I calculate the functioning of my entire body by being my body. You want to see a model of my body? Here I am. That's silly, right? So when dealing with stuff, the concept of calculation is revealed as notional. Let's look at some definitions of calculate. To ascertain by computation, reckon, calculating the area of a circle, calculated their probable time of arrival. To make an estimate of, evaluate, calculating the team's chances of winning. To make for a deliberate purpose, design, a sturdy car that is calculated to last for years, a choice that was calculated to please. To perform a mathematical process, to figure. We must measure and calculate to determine how much paint will be needed. To predict consequences. Stuff cannot predict its own consequences with apodictic certainty, as omniscience implies. If an immaterial hypercube behaves in a manner that can be modeled, that's not calculation by any of those definitions. Other stuff would have to be arranged in a way that they can predict all of the non-material stuff that makes up the hypercube with apodictic certainty. The definition of calculate implies the usage of more stuff than is being calculated, be it material or not. And if being something counts as calculation of that thing, then the universe is omniscient, which is just bastardizing the meaning of calculate to form a tautology. Because of this calculation problem, I am a hard atheist. The omnipotence thing is obvious and is secondary.